Welcome to Wide Flank.
Hello and welcome to Wide Flank. I'm here with Alon
Hello.
and Danny.
Now I'm a potato. Hello.
Yeah, so we're doing a game club episode this episode, and we played Portal and Portal 2. It's a twofer. We figured they were kind of sort of the same game, and also they're both pretty short, so we thought we'd do them back to back. So we played Portal 1 and 2, and Danny, do you want to tell us about it?
Oh, do I ever? So Portal and Portal 2 are first-person puzzle platformers developed by Valve, company behind games like Counter-Strike, a game like Counter-Strike, or another game like Left 4 Dead, and maybe one or two others. It's technically set in the Half-Life universe. Portal 1 came out in 2007. Portal 2 came out in 2011. Focuses on the player character, woman named Shell, forced to undergo a series of tests within the Aperture Science Enrichment Center by an AI, GLaDOS in the first game, and then kind of GLaDOS and, I guess also GLaDOS in the second game. Wheatley
and
too.
More.
Yeah, and more. But the Portal was originally a student project from a group of students at a DigiPen Institute of Technology, and they basically created a game where you used portals to navigate levels. And Valve attended a career fair, saw their game, and offered the team that was working on it jobs to. Basically, they offered them jobs to come build this game out at Valve. So they came and they built Portal 1 with Valve, and then they eventually expanded the team and built Portal 2 there. And hugely successful games, like huge cult classics. It's re-released for the Xbox with the orange box, with TF2 and Half-Life 2 Episode 2. But yeah, just like a very special place in a lot of gamers' hearts. And I somehow had never played it. I never played them until now. So late entry for me, but yeah.
This is why we do the game club.
I never played it either. Yeah, this is why we do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Every time you do one of these intros, Danny, I'm like, man, this is so sick. I love this game. This is so cool.
But then actually you hated the game.
Yeah.
Now let's dig into it for 2 hours. I don't know. I feel like most people I know have played and love this game, but also it's a rare game that is so accessible that I think anyone could play it. Even non-gamers could like sit in front of a computer and sort of get it and like at least have some enjoyment and the cleverness and stuff like that of the game. And a lot of that is just to do with like the simplicity. It's not a hard game at all. Like difficulty doesn't really come into play, especially in Portal 1, I don't think. And it's very short. It's like, what is it, 3 hours or something? So it's like a Marvel movie. And yeah, it's just they do such a good job of like ramping up the difficulty very slowly so that anyone can get it. And yeah, it's a great game.
Yeah. This is the kind of game that Madeline probably couldn't play when she first started playing video games, because you have to walk and aim at the same time, which is too challenging for some. But yeah, I think you're right. There's like no technical skill required in the game, really. I think that's less true in Portal 2.
Yeah.
Though it's a little more it's still kind of forgiving. But the main concept of Portal, which I think, like, honestly, until I replayed it and like was thinking about the game, I didn't actually realize how I like kind of forgot how genius the concept, the basic concept is, which is you can you basically have a gun that can shoot two portals, a blue portal and an orange portal, and they're essentially you create like a wormhole in the world, and you can walk through wherever you shoot one portal, you can walk into it and come out where the other portal is. And it's just like a really simple concept, but it can be implemented in so many different ways. So you, the player, can go through this portal and change where you enter and exit throughout the levels, but also objects, specifically the companion cubes. can do it. These are little squares that accompany you on your journey, little boxes that you pick up and move around. And I think like when you first, we have a question about this.
Oh, the opening moment or whatever.
Yeah, Svenny said, how jarring was it to see your character when you portaled and saw yourself for the first time? Was definitely the moment for me where I realized the game is special. And basically, you're in a cell, a bedroom, and you portal out of it. And when you do, you're able to see your character walk through the portal into the other portal, and you're just instantly it teaches you like how the portal system works, but also it's just an incredible moment where you're just like, what the fuck is going on? And also I get it, and also I'm excited to do more stuff with this.
No, I was just gonna say that it's special for so many reasons, but it's like it can't be understated that I think people listening who haven't seen or haven't played the game are imagining like, a blue like teleportation thing or a portal, like a spirally portal-y thing that you walk in and then teleport away. Like it's not like that. Like it's a camera that you can see directly through. So if you're like, sometimes you have to time when you fall to like land on a platform, and you can just, if you have a portal on the ceiling and the platform is moving below you, you can just look through the first portal to see through the second portal and time your fall. It's just like so cool, and so like it just grasps you immediately to be like, whoa. Like I'm pretty sure everyone probably did the same thing in playtesting and in the actual game of just like stepping in, stepping out, stepping in, stepping out when you first see yourself, of just like, this is like, it's so like fluid. It's not like a teleportation. It's literally a wormhole.
Did you guys try to see your face?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is I'm so glad you guys did this, but I assume everybody does. I wonder if there's like I feel like there's a particularly human thing, right? It's like, do animals recognize themselves in mirrors? But I also like, if I have a mirror like that shows my like side, I like try, or like in the hotel when you have like a makeup mirror and something else, I always try and angle it so I can like see myself from a different perspective. And I'm like trying to like look at it.
In this hallway right here between us, I always there's like so many weird angles.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know why I wanted to say that, but I love like trying to sneak a peek at yourself, because you can never really see a full frontal, so to speak. But
from like a development or technical perspective, it's so fluid. Like you don't lag when you go through the portal. It's not like it re-renders the whole level. It's just, you can, as soon as you do it, you can see right through it. You can walk right through it. They make it really easy. You're, no matter whatever angle you made the portal at, you might come out of the next one upside down, but it just immediately rights you. So they just they put in such an effort, and it works so well to make all the portaling experience just really snappy and fluid at all times.
Yeah, and if that didn't feel good, the game would have just immediately failed, right? I mean, it's like what Neil and Dugan and I were talking about with Neon White, right? It's like if jumping wasn't right, that game just can't exist. It's like that base level thing that they just nailed so hard. And they, like you said, Danny, they took it from a student game, and I watched a video of like the playthrough of what's it called again? Narbacular Drop or something?
It's exactly.
Narbacular Drop. It's like shocking how good it is. Obviously the graphics are way shittier, and it was done by students, and there's glitches and stuff, but like the portals work the exact same way. The kids invented this system, and Valve was just like, as blown away as we were in the first Portal room, Valve was seeing that same thing in the career fair or whatever, and was just like, holy shit, this is incredible.
It's just another example of like just someone really pushing the medium beyond what kind of just an entire new dimension to level design. And and Portal 1 as a game is really it feels to me like a proof of concept, which is funny that there's such a long gap between Portal 1 and 2, but like it feels like a really smooth game made by students, right? Like it's It feels like you're testing the Portal system for Portal 2, essentially.
It really does. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. I mean, it's so I don't have that much experience with like puzzle games, but it really, with the Portal system and the the verticality of the game too, it's just like such a 3D puzzle in a way that I haven't really experienced in other games. Not a platformer, it's a 3D puzzle because all directions, all angles are opened up by this one Portal system.
Right, yeah. Like The Witness was a recent puzzle game. That's amazing, but so much of the game is just like looking at a 2D puzzle and trying to solve it. And I think part of what's special about Portal is it's 3D. It's a 3D puzzler game. Milk said,
Hi, Milk.
Hello, Milk.
Like how does Portal compare to games like Superliminal that have you solve puzzles around the central mechanic? Is Portal the first of its kind, or did it build upon an established genre? I feel like I'm always so bad at these. Like I feel like a lot of our friends are. I play a lot of games, but not like that many obscure ones or foundational ones, as you can see by the games we've picked for Game Club. But it's. So I don't know. I would totally believe someone's like, "Oh, this happened 4 years ago. Valve just like did it better and made it more popular." So I'll leave it to like someone else to just own me in the comments. But to me, this seemed like what you were saying, Danny. It's and Alon, maybe you want to talk about this a little bit because I think we've touched on this earlier. But it's not a push in anything but creativity, right? We can talk about this as like pushing technology, but like this is simply just an idea that you could have made with the first 3D game, essentially.
Right.
Maybe some of the coding would have been too hard. I don't know. But this is a creative accomplishment. It reminds me of like I've spent a lot of time trying to understand theory of relativity, and I don't really get it. But it seems like this was such a big deal because Einstein's theory of relativity was such a big deal because it was a creative idea first. Like the math, while challenging, is not even close to the hardest thing, right? It was that he thought of this and then did the math to figure it out.
Right.
And
the thing I said to you about like the technology, it just like I had this moment where I was like, this kind of reminds me or mirrors maybe in a way like the advancement of gaming through technology. Like in the early days of gaming where I think we talked about it a bit in the Doom episode, and I definitely a lot in the book that I read about the two Johns, where like the ability to do something was usually the driving aspect behind the creation of a game. So it was one of the Johns saying like, but I want this to be in 3D. And then John Carmack, the genius of the two, being like, I can do that. And then locking himself in a room for 2 weeks and just sleeping on the floor and drinking Coke and pizza, like just eating pizza for 2 weeks straight until he does it. And and then Doom was born, right? It wasn't like, let's make a first-person shooter in hell. Because what the fuck does that mean before you can even move and run around in 3D, right? But it's like, we can do this now. All of a sudden, we can render stuff as fast as Nintendo can render it in Mario. What can we do with that? Like, that's the like aha moment of like, holy shit, everything is open. And yeah, I definitely felt that with just like the portals. Even though it sounds like a ridiculous topic to talk about, it's just like, that is what the game is. It's the portals.
Yeah, and I think one of the key differences between Portal 1 and 2 is Portal 1 was, there are games like The Last of Us that are born of story or like a creative or like an artistic endeavor or idea from Neil Druckmann or like, from the writers, and then kind of building an engaging game around it. Like Portal 1 is very obviously we just need to build something around this mechanic to get people to keep going through
Yes.
the world for 3 hours, right? And Portal 2, similar, but obviously there's way more effort put into kind of telling this story along with it, engaging the player in that separate way. And so it feels, I think it still is, the primary focus is like, how do we keep making portaling fun? But like Portal 1, that's so obviously that's all it was, right? It was just, we'll have a funny AI narrator running throughout and a bunch of like funny signs and visual assets throughout the levels, but this is really just about having fun shooting the portal gun.
Right. I think there's other types of creativity like this that just don't end up with a fun game. And it's like a cool concept, which I do think sort of is the case for Portal. I think it's, it's kind of on the edge of that. But do you want to talk about like an example of like a puzzle or something like,
Well,
do you think it'd be helpful?
I was going to just read this quote because I think it's from the Besties podcast when they were on their Portal episode. I just think it kind of like encapsulates the fun that I had while playing Portal. But it says, it takes the joy of figuring out a sneaky workaround. This idea of like, I'm going to find a loophole in what you're doing that you didn't intend me to find, and then I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to get a thrill out of that. And then there's a second layer that Portal adds, which is like, oh, we knew you were going to do that. You're supposed to do that. And that's the game. How can you subvert what we designed? Because a lot of what Portal feels like to me is it feels unique to you, like identifiable to you, the way that you solve the puzzle. Like there's a sense of discovery as there is in any solving anything, Sudoku or whatever, like it's that exists in any puzzle game, I think. But this game makes it feel like, because it's so like open, right? It's truly 3D. You can shoot a portal in any number of places to solve this one puzzle. It feels like you figured out your own solution and your like style almost of figuring out puzzles. Even though they play tested it a million times and probably 90% of people did it the same way,
Yeah, right. I mean, I think, the crossword is filled the exact same way every time, right?
Exactly.
If you do it, especially if you do it on an app, it's the exact same, right? And you will have unique, even though everyone solves the big concept of the level the same way, like you're putting the portals everywhere. You are doing something slightly different, and it feels like it. Your fingerprint is on the level for sure.
Right. Yeah, I can't really think of a way to like verbally describe a level aside from like you need to get to a point, but there's a pit of like basically acid water that kills you. So you shoot a portal on one side of the level, shoot a portal on the side of the level you're on, and then you go through. Like, right, that's the most basic, like A to B. And then it's just a bunch of kids brainstorming in a room to be like, okay, what's every cool way we can do this basic puzzle, right?
Right. I think they do this in one of the other... They definitely do. But like there's... In Portal 2, like one of the first puzzles is there's a cube you need to put on a pressure plate.
Yeah.
And it's far away. And I'm like, how the fuck can I get over there? And you just shoot a portal under it and next to you, and it just pops out right where you are.
Yeah.
And like to me, like just very early on in Portal 2, just doing that really simple resolution, I was like, oh yeah, this is fucking great. Just like watching it like pop up out of the ground, just the physics of it, just like the click of realizing what I needed to do. It was awesome.
Well, I think one of the best things about this game, and especially Portal 1, Portal 2 is a little more involved with it, but it's like the learning and the teaching is so smooth and natural. You just sort of like, you come into a level and you're like, what? Well, there's literally only one thing I can do. I can shoot a portal at this wall. And then, you have a laser. It's a level with a laser. And then you're like, oh, the laser goes through the portal. I mean, they kind of set you up in these situations where it's like, you only have one option. Like, you can think about it all you want, but eventually you're just like, well, I guess I'll just shoot the portal gun and see what happens, right? And yeah, this really, this super intuitive and natural way of learning how to navigate the levels. Portal 2 is more like press E to press E on this button to extend the light bridge, or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, it's I feel like it's one of the things Valve does best, right? Is this kind of invisible hand guiding at all times. And in this case, it's the learning, in Half-Life and this game as well. But, and I've said this when we played Half-Life 2, I would just run around, jumping around the level, just doing whatever in the next moment felt like the right thing, like what I felt like what I should be doing.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I ended up at the end of the area. And similar thing to this, like, well, I'll shoot the portal gun over here. Okay, I pick this up. I'll shoot this over here. I'll shoot this over here, and then I'm like, oh, I solved the puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm so smart. And Valve is like exactly how we wanted you to.
It's like when a magician like sprays the cards, but they like wait on one card for like 0.1 seconds longer than the other, so everyone sees like the 7 of hearts or whatever.
Right.
But you think he just showed every card, and he's like, okay, like, do you have your card? But he showed you the one card you're only supposed to see, right? So there's only one option, but you can't like register that. But yeah, it's also the like you were saying, Danny. It's sort of like a proof of concept. Is also like we mentioned how short it is. It's not just that it's short. It's bite size. It's not addictive. It's not difficult. It's not violent. The overall game is short, but also every level's really short, and it auto saves at. I don't think I ever died and went back to a point where I was like, ugh, I have to do this over again ever once. And it just like is very forgiving. And so like you could legitimately play this game in like 20-minute bites, and I don't think you would lose anything. And that's like really like revolutionary, I think.
Yeah. We were talking about this in comparison to something like Neon White or games that are like just, I think objectively, well, for me, maybe not objectively, but that are just like more fun. Like, I could just play them for hours and hours, especially ones that like have achievements and stuff. I just love that, or experience leveling up. Like I get really addicted to that. But this game, like I never felt like I needed to go back and play, or I was like really excited to go back and play it. Which in some ways I think is a bad thing about it. Like I'm at least like I'm on guard about it, right? Like, oh, I don't really want to play this game. But then when I'm playing it, I'm often like really satisfied. And when I'm done, I'm like, that was great. And like, I don't need to play anymore. And Jonathan Blow talks, I think I might've brought this up on one of our other podcasts, like where I forget which one, but he talks about, people are like, video games are so addictive. I love them. Like I never want to stop playing. This game's amazing. It's so addictive. Like you can see this in so many game reviews. And he's like, doesn't this sound like Stockholm Syndrome? He's like, games shouldn't be addictive. Like we should respect your time. You should play it. You should be happy you did it, and then you should walk away. And Portal 1, I think, really has that ethos, or just based on the game design, right? It's a puzzler. It's like you're saying, it's short, but like I didn't breeze through it, like in the way totally. I have breezed through other things. And I've watched every Marvel movie, and I don't like basically any of them. And I don't think I remember any of them. And this game is as long as those, and just way better and way more satisfying. And every single time I was like, that was cool. Like that was special. That felt good.
Great episode. Thanks for joining me today in my home. No, yeah, I think, it sounds like we all feel that. I feel like most of this conversation is really lasered in on Portal 1, which is this really narrow experience that is, I think, not perfect in the sense that it's the best thing in the world, but it's like exactly what they just perfectly executed this kind of, I don't know, exciting gaming experience, or futuristic new gaming experience. Yeah. And really where our more, what our past game clubs have really been, the like kind of multi faceted review or discussion we have. So much of that will have to be about Portal 2, just because so much Portal 1 is so short and narrowed and lasered in, But it's
Let's dig into Portal 1 a little bit in that sense. So one thing you were saying, Alon, is like that it's a 3D puzzler, and one of the problems I had with the this puzzling aspect was getting into a room and just feeling like I was missing something. Like Danny, you were saying you often knew what you needed to do, and sometimes I did. I was like, I know totally what I need to figure out, but often I didn't know what I needed to figure out, and like I was like, I'm missing a panel, or I don't quite understand. Do I understand this mechanic the way I thought I did? And often I misunderstood what the puzzle wanted me to do, so it was my fault, and it ended up just being like, oh, great, I figured it out. But sometimes I just got this feeling like I'm going to be stuck here for a while because I haven't put this room together correctly in my head, or there's a panel missing somewhere, or where I can shoot a portal, because most of the level you can't shoot portals, just like only a few spots, or that's not true, but some spots.
It's like the white walls or concrete walls. I don't know what
you can only shoot portals at some surfaces.
Yeah.
And that was always like I just felt like bad. I was like, oh, I don't want it. So, because there were some rooms I'd walk in and be like, okay, I got this. I'm going to figure this out. Like, I do it there. No, wait, I think it's there. And then other times it was like just running around in circles, like shooting a portal, walking back and forth. Like, oh, maybe I'll just figure it out if I like you were saying, Danny, just like do a bunch of dumb things, and eventually I'll like end up in an area where I have like a better perspective.
Yeah.
And maybe that's because I should have been more patient or something and like really stopped and appreciated the level. But sometimes I just was like, this isn't clicking for me.
I love this because I connect in so many ways, but my vantage point is just a little bit different, because it's actually one of the things that I think is really great about Portal 1 and really bad about Portal 2. I mean, spoiler alert, I did not enjoy my experience in Portal 2, and I think Portal 1 is like basically as good a game as any game I've ever played, probably. Like, it's just like so perfect. But yeah, I mean, in that specific way, like the way it relates to me is I'm just that type of person where my like initial like my hardware factory settings is like, fuck this, give up. Like when I can't find it, I'm not like, oh wow, like I get to, dig in and really, get my hands dirty here. I'm like, fucking, what is this? Like I just resisting the temptation to look it up. But all of the good things I said about like the sense of discovery and the joy of actually solving it once you do solve it and all of that stuff that is in Portal 1 got like sort of removed for me in Portal 2, because I personally felt, and I'm very curious what you guys think, that Portal 2 is like basically on rails. Like there were so many, I would say like more than half the game where the place you need to shoot your first portal is the only place in the room with a light on it. And the place you need to shoot your second portal is the only other place with a light on it. And the place you need to fall has an X on it. And the place you need to get the box from is a big button. And I'm just like going into these rooms over and over again, like, oh, okay, I need to fling there, put one portal here, one portal there. So I fling again. And flinging, by the way, is just like when you continue your momentum through portals, so you can like launch yourself. If you like fall off a high place into a portal, you'll shoot out the other portal. But yeah, there was so many things in Portal 2 where I was just, it was like the exact opposite of that feeling of frustration, which like the pendulum swung too far, I guess is what I'm trying to say, where I felt like this is too easy for me to on-site, and it's like wasting my time because it's just not even interesting. It's not frustrating, so I'm not getting the payoff, but it's not even interesting because I'm just like going through the motions.
Yeah, I certainly felt that way. The first half of Portal 2, or maybe the first like 35% of it, is very strange because I feel like they're in a weird position as developers because they basically Portal 2 is like the idea is to expand on Portal 1, but they felt like they have to introduce people still to the concept of the game. And so if you've especially just coming fresh off of Portal 1, it's like I just did all of this, right? And this feels it's even more dumbed down than the first game. And then the payoff is like, but now we have these new features for the puzzles, right? We have the light bridge, and we have goop of different colors that cause different things to happen, and that comes pretty late. Like the light bridge is the only addition until chapter 7, basically.
It's insane,
and that's a pretty long time to be playing like almost like a more toned down version. I mean, I think some of the portal gun only puzzles using the launchers and stuff are, kind of, they feel more like a natural extension of Portal 1. But yeah, I totally agree. I was just kind of excited because I was still having fun with the portal gun and stuff. So I wasn't as put off by it at the beginning, but I totally would. You telling me that, I was like, yeah, that totally makes sense that was a weird, not fun experience.
Yeah. You said on rails. I really I think I wrote down, this is just a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And they're like, when you do all those platforms where they just like launch you into other things, it's like the first time I was like, whoa, that was cool. And then you do it all the time, and it's like, I don't even know where I'm going. Like the game's just shooting me around.
It's like those little Big Planet levels where it's like, put your controller down.
Yeah,
and it just launches you around.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you're watching like a marble do its thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And one thing I loved about Portal 1 is knowing what you needed to do, and just like the portals not being quite lined up, and just feeling a little jankier, and just being like, oh, I'm like actually, especially in the second half of the game, or the like climax of the game. But even when you're just doing the regular like testing, it's, I don't know. I feel like you, in the sense of like, I'm actually playing the game rather than like I hit the portal on the big X and so I did it, or I just shot it somewhere and it just the game's just going to do it for me. I feel like I actually had to execute the mechanic correctly, where Portal 2 didn't always feel like it. It felt like it was very forgiving, which in some ways I was like, oh, this feels a little cleaner and more like tight, but also that's kind of what I liked about Portal 1.
Well, there's some weird changes, like just real quick, like the
go ahead.
The portals now snap into specific spots on the platform, on the panels in Portal 2, which I was really annoyed or confused by the whole time. I was like, I'll just, if it's not on target, I'll just do it again. I don't know. It was like just very small changes like that made it feel less free or strange.
Yeah, the thing that I wrote down in my notes, like as I was playing it, was, oh, okay, there's a ramp, I'll have to fling. Oh, there's a tilted wall, like I'll have to fling off that, I'll have to jump off that. There's this color gel in the room, I'm gonna have to do this. Like, and it's basically like I'm going through steps 1 through 5, and then you'll end up solving the puzzle. Whereas Portal 1 felt like, can I do this? Is this gonna work? And what if I try this? And then you maybe solve it or don't, or you just try again. And that is just so much more interesting and satisfying than like basically like putting the Legos together and following the instructions, which is what Portal 2 felt like to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think my biggest problem with both games is I don't like that there's one solution. I think it's probably true for 95% of the puzzles. There's one right solution.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's like Valve's design philosophy with it, but I'd like being able to kind of, obviously you have your own path to solving each one, but I'd like being able to break games and to, like you said, like kind of, I'd like to subvert the game and for the game to not have actually planned for that,
Yeah.
My glitching days can attest to it.
Or at least feel that way, right? Like that's part of the magic of Portal, because you're not actually subverting Portal at any point in the game.
Right, exactly.
But it just feels like it.
Yeah, and again, like Portal 2 really takes that feeling away for so much of it. And I mean, again, there's these story elements and characters that are way more present in Portal 2. You know, I think like the character of Gladys is fun in Portal 1, and like a fun companion, kind of like that you can kind of laugh at and feel a little like it makes the experience a little more immersive. But in Portal 2, it's like you spend so much of the game just running on catwalks, listening to Wheatley or Gladys talk to you. And, you know, sometimes it's funny and fun, but a lot of times it's not. And it's just kind of, it's like I'm like locked into these areas, not playing Portal, listening to things. And then, coupling that with less freedom with the puzzles or less control over the puzzles, it doesn't make for as special of an experience.
Right. I kept asking myself during Portal 2, like, what is this game? Like, what is it? A story game? Like, is it a comedy? Is it supposed to be spiritual or philosophical about AI? Is it a puzzle game? Like, it can be all these things too, but literally every single time you solve a puzzle, GLaDOS has like some fucking comment for you, right?
Don't
like
get me started.
Like when you killed me.
Yeah, it's just just to know, like to be like, but the 15th room you've completed in a row that GLaDOS has said something to you, and you're just like, you just finished the puzzle, and you're like, well, she's going to say something to me again. I just know she is, and she's going to be like, she calls you fat for like 5 puzzles in a row. It's just like, what the fuck?
Who finds this funny?
Yeah, it's like, it's not funny, but even if it was funny, even if you did find it hilarious, like, it's just over and over again. And is that what the game is? Like, is this the game? Like, your reward for completing a puzzle. That's sort of what it is, right? It's like your reward for accomplishing this is like a bunch of similar themed jokes.
No, I mean the sense of humor, if we want to like go there, is like I have like I wrote my thesis on this basically. I mean, it's just
let's talk about the humor in Portal 2.
Well, because just to quickly touch on Portal 1, it's like GLaDOS, the AI who runs the testing center basically, or took over it and killed everyone and runs the testing center. I actually found her kind of funny in 1. Like, I think that to me at least, and maybe they're just, subverting me yet again, but to me it didn't feel like we're trying to be funny. It just felt like we're just writing a character, and it's simple and it's not that much a part of the game. There's tons of Portal 1 where there's no sound. You're just like alone, which also like vibe wise I think fits so well, right? You're just in this like hell testing chamber by yourself, and you're like, whatever. That's a whole nother thing about just like the aesthetic. But yeah, Portal 2, I mean, it's literally nonstop through the entire game. You're either hearing Wheatley, who's the new character introduced at the beginning of the game, just played by Stephen Merchant, just like riffing. A lot of it is improvised and it's just like cheeky quips and like him being really stupid because that's his character. His character is supposed to be like, I forget the wording they use for it, but like an intelligence dampener or something like that. So he's just saying really stupid and really like cheeky, whatever. And then the other third of the game, J.K. Simmons is just like, I don't know, role playing a 50s, like a caricature of a guy from the 50s over a loudspeaker talking to you. And then the final third of the game is GLaDOS just as a potato or as the AI, just giving you a cheeky quip or making fun of you the whole game. And it's just like, I found it so unbearable. I was just like enraged the whole time I was playing by all of this. Like, I wanted to just mute it and like play Portal by myself. I wanted to be by myself, which is like a weird desire in a video game.
Yeah, and I totally agree with your characterization of it, Teddy, where it's just so disjointed. It's like when Portal 2 opens and Wheatley's talking to you, it's like, I don't know, he's very charismatic and the voice actor does an amazing job, and then he's like a nod if you can hear, like, or nod if you understand. and it tells you to press the space bar and you jump, and he's like, okay, well, you're probably still suffering from, some brain damage, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll keep moving. And that moment I thought was really funny and clever. And then, I mean, it's just, I think about this with, I won't use it. I can't think of an analogy, but just it's really hard to write, 2.5 hours worth or 2 hours worth of funny dialogue in any situation. And so it's just I don't even get why they did it. They tried, right? Obviously, you're not going to have, no one can write that, right? No one could write Wheatley in a way that is always going to be really funny every time he comes in and makes his quips or riffs. And so, yeah, it's so much talking. It's almost like an awkward teenager trying to make, his new group of friends or his,
yes,
new partners, new partners' friends or his new partner's friends laugh. I don't know. It's it's really
no,
tough.
I think that's spot on. I
have chills. I'm literally sick to my stomach thinking about that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Or when you're hanging out with your older siblings, right? And it's really cringy. It's just it can't be done. So
I mean I sent you guys a video. We'll link to it in the show notes about bathos, which is the art of sinking in poetry, and it's the video is entirely 100% about the sense of humor in Marvel movies, but that's the only thing I could find that was analogous to how annoying and bad I thought the sense of humor in Portal 2 was. And like he says in the video, it's not, the dispute isn't if it's funny or not, because that's subjective. Some people find it funny, some people not, but the point is that there's a dramatic cost that has to be paid whenever bathos is used at the wrong time, or whenever these quips are said, right? And so I thought back to Portal 1. It's kind of funny. There's definitely some quotes that I love. I love the flavor, the graffiti on the wall, it's just beautiful. It's so good. It's so subtle. The final act of Portal 1, where you're escaping and then you eventually have to fight GLaDOS, there's no quips anymore. It's not funny anymore, and she's not trying to be funny anymore. She's just evil, and it's evil and dark, and there's a twist, and it's intense, and it's fun, and it's cool, and it's scary. But there's no more of her just being silly insert name here, whatever joke, because it doesn't work there. We're in, right? We've played 2/3 of the game. We're in. You don't need to sell me on the game. You don't right? It's your analogy, Danny. I like you already. Stop trying to make me laugh,
Yeah.
Portal 2, which should be even more confident than Portal 1, because it's the best, one of the best-selling games of all time already. People are already saying it's one of the best games of all time, Portal 1. So when you're making the sequel, you should be more confident, and it just comes off as so not confident, because you're just getting beaten over the head with all these things to try and be hey, we're funny. You guys like the funny stuff, right? Watch this. You're going to love this. And I'm just get away from me, right? It's just the opposite effect happens over and over again.
Right. And it's like you said, it's not that, it's not just that you don't think it's funny, because I definitely thought, it seems I thought more of Portal 2 was funny than you did. But again, that's when you're designing this game, you're gonna. I mean, I don't know how many hours of dialogue there is in the game, but it seems like it could be. It's more than an hour of talking
for
in the
sure,
game. Yeah. And you're just not going to. That's just not going to land. An hour's worth of content is not going to land with everyone, and so it's just a strange, corner to kind of back yourself into, especially when you've got such a good formula built around it already, right?
Yeah,
totally.
I totally agree. They pay people lots of money to be funny, and they're often not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to say that there's so many things I want to say. So
okay,
Wheatley playing video games have been so badly written for so long. So when that Wheatley opening played, when I first played Portal 2, I was literally on the floor. And I still think it's hilarious. The jump, say apple,
that's the best part right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do think there are some funny moments. There's one moment early on where you go off some jump, and
he goes,
Wheatley's up there, and he's just up there, And he's like, oh, hey, like you haven't seen him in a while. And he's like, and he starts talking to you and you fall back down and then jump back up and he's like in the middle of a sentence. And like the funny part is like this scenario, right? It's not writing. It's like physical comedy, right? It's just, it doesn't matter what he's saying. It's about like the absurdity of the situation that he's talking to you as you're just like bouncing up and down on this thing. And there are a lot of really, there's just like, in general, I think like that this game is even remotely funny or remotely well written was just so gratifying to me as a gamer. Like, just a game that I'm not totally embarrassed to be heard playing.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
like
so fair.
Danny and I play Kingdom Hearts, and like, there was just like such a bad game in so many ways. And like, Doug will walk in, and I'm like, I don't even know how to begin to explain or justify what I'm doing here. Like, this is so embarrassing and bad. Like,
you'd
just
rather him
trash.
catch you with like porn on your monitor than
it is. Yeah, it's just like I can't tell you. I just can't explain it. So like playing a game like The Last of Us or something, you know, it's just like, thank fucking God.
Yeah.
So for me, this was like, it was like a sign that games, you know, were doing well and could make me laugh. And even if we, like, I think we have a pretty high standard for sense of humor. You know, like people just like love Jim Gaffigan and like watching, you know, I don't know, SNL, and like tons of people watch just like gag stuff. And it's like,
I mean,
you know,
I'm shitting on Marvel. Every movie makes fucking $100 billion. You know, like I'm the weird one for thinking it's cringe.
Yeah, I guess I think the problem with, and we've talked about this before, but the problem with making everything a joke is you don't, right? You're saying is you don't have to take any risks. What is it? Like you said, like, because
dramatic
if you say
cost.
something, if you say something earnest, right, you could be the butt of the joke, right? Is that
right? Yeah.
But if you make it a joke, then you're above the situation. You're not saying anything earnest. And I said this to you like when we were prepping, but like I think this is like our generation's problem in media, but also like socially in terms of so many things. It's just like, oh, like I'm not going to say anything serious. I'm just going to like crack a joke about this. And it just like, it allows you to like be detached and not risk anything. And it's the problem with a game that's just constantly, dishing out humor, but like just no humor. Like the GLaDOS becomes a potato and a bird tries to eat her and flies away. Like what is going on here? Right? It's like such, I'm sorry, like gamer type humor, right? It's just like what other, like what can be memes on the internet or something? It's just like, and it's before this, right? It's like, like what funny thing can we add? I think that's like, they were really like, they're in a writer's room doing this. Whereas like, I'm trying to think like funny. Yeah. Like you're right. Like GLaDOS doesn't have like tons of funny lines in Portal 1. But like, I guess something that's funny, but also good is like when she simply says like, you're a bad person in Portal 1. Like when she says that to you, you're just like, oh my God. Right? Because this like AI that's like slowly been getting ruder and ruder and like more self-aware and more connected with you. And eventually it's just like, you're a bad person. And it's just like so shocking and hilarious and like, wow, like just flat, but full of meaning, even though like if a kid said this to you, you'd be like, whatever. But just this robot saying this, like, oh wow, you're a bad person. Like, wow, that's intense. This robot's on the fritz. Where it reminded me of 2001 when he's powering down Hal.
Yeah.
And Hal's just like, I'm afraid. And like, I still get chills just thinking about it, right? It's just that simple line, but just like what this computer is feeling and is just putting into a simple like noun verb sentence to convey it to you. And there's just so much happening there, just in one simple line. And to have every room, you just have to listen to GLaDOS deliver one-liners is just the opposite of that, right? It's one thing I loved about, I'll just say this here because I don't know where else I'll say it, is like the final portal room is like where you see GLaDOS's big robot body, and there's like a red phone. And actually, I think this is also showed in the comic we read, which takes place between Portal 1 and 2. But, I think these are these workers here who are supposed to watch over this AI and basically like pick up the red phone and like power this thing down before it kills everybody. And they don't say anything about that in the game, right? There's no big thing about it. It's just like, it's just there and it's simple and it's small, but it like represents like what they were trying to do with this. And this is another aside, but I'll just say it. People talk about AI, like not worrying about AI singularity or AIs taking over or whatever. And I think I heard Neil deGrasse Tyson being like, oh yeah, we don't need to worry about AI. Like this is just like a total sci-fi thing. And he's like, well, just turn the computer off. We just have power. We can just turn the computer off if it's a problem, which I already think is kind of stupid. But someone he was talking to him is like, what if your daughter has MS and she's going to die and the computer's like, I can cure your daughter, right? Are you going to turn the computer off? Are you going to help it get out of the safe room it's in? And he was like, oh, and it was just amazing watching, just like, seeing oh yeah, there's so many
break.
Yeah. And, I guess she somehow gets neurotoxin, to her, to the facility and kills everybody.
The comic, she's like, I need neurotoxin. He's like, if it's for science.
yeah. And, I don't know. There's so much there about like, we think we know we can control all this stuff, but and none of this, and that's the other thing. It's like, what is Portal 1 about? It's about portals, but also it's about like AI and hubris and all this stuff. And it's there if you want to see it, and it's also, it doesn't have to be there, and that's fine. If you don't want to pay attention to it, you are just beaten over the head in Portal 2 with gags. And I like Wheatley. I think he's amazing, but like that's not really what this game should be about, right? This game shouldn't be about a funny robot talking to you all the time, unless it really should be. And then I don't know. It just didn't seem like it.
In a weird way, the Stephen Merchant hire is like a really bad signal that describes everything you were talking about, because at some point in the creation process of Portal 2, they were like, okay, now we got to do all the funny stuff. Let's hire the dark office guy who does all the funny stuff and let him just riff. Like, people are going to love it, right? And I think what you said about memes is also really relevant, because I think a lot of where Portal 2 missed for me is them not really knowing what to do with the sequel or how a sequel should be made, and just being like, let's just do what worked in Portal 1. But like Portal 1, there was a huge, not maybe memes is the wrong word, but there was a huge, like, everyone was saying the cake is a lie, and everyone was like buying companion cubes, and there's tons of like the stuff that like the turrets say is really cute and funny, and there's like so many refs to Portal 1 that were definitely not, at no point in the creation process that were they like, people are gonna freak about this companion cube, like everyone's gonna get the cake is a lie tattooed on their arm, like. And in Portal 2, and it's the same with like all of the good memes from games, right? Like right before we started, Danny and I were talking about like the press F to pay respects. Like, it's funny because the creators of COD thought that was good. And then we get to make fun of it, right? And like, it's just such a huge difference when it's being forced on you to be like, we're going to make something that's going to be memed. We're going to make something that again, I said it before, in the back of their head, I feel like everything in the game was the creator being like, they're going to love this. And I'm just like, that's disgusting. Like,
well, this is this is all over our culture right now, right? This kind of commercialization and gamification of creativity. And like, I was just listening to a podcast today talking about the new Game of Thrones spin-off show. And they talk about how, like, the problem with the Star Wars sequels is they can't do something new no matter how much they want to. They just like have to harken back to every character from the original trilogy. They have to be making references back. They like have to reinforce this because like people love this stuff, right? And it's just and this is like such the old guard of gaming, like the basically everything before Halo 4 and Call of Duty 7, where there was just all this really natural all these happy accidents of memes and mythos and like community built around these funny things in these games. And I think this is just the problem. I think this is the source of a lot of the problems with sequels, where they feel like they have to deliver something. They're like, well, we had this one thing that people laughed at in this, so we need in the worst situation, they do it again, the exact same thing again. In the middle case, it's not the companion cube, it's some other new object that we've replaced it with, and they fall into it a little too much in this game of trying to force those moments into existence again.
I feel like a lot of what we're talking about is like capitalism in the arts, like in a weird way. Like, I mean, I'm shitting on Marvel nonstop this episode, but is what it is. But there will never be a great Marvel movie, in the same way that there will never be another great Star Wars movie, because no one's ever going to risk billions of dollars to make one. If they can just pump out B's and C's like a fucking factory and everyone makes billions, there's no risk ever, then they're just going to keep doing that. Like, the only time that good things are made creatively is when there's freedom to fail. And if they're not going to risk the occasional bomb, then it's just going to be, there has to be this many jokes, there has to be this many flings, there has to be this many references to Portal 1, and that's our game.
I don't want to get off subject too much, but I do think what's funny is with Star Wars, the second movie in the new trilogy, the Last Jedi, actually was for them this like risk. It's just it was just a bad idea. In my opinion, it was just a terrible idea, and so now they'll never do it again, right? They'll never take a chance on it. Like, Rian Johnson is. I totally disagree. I get into conversations with people all the time. It's like, I totally disagree with his like what he decided to do with the movie, but like, I think it's like actually really well crafted, and like I understand what he wanted to do with it. Right. It's just like, I just think it was so stupid. But if he had a different idea, or they chose someone else to do it, like, it could have been amazing, right? And I'm glad. In hindsight, I'm glad they were willing to do that. And but again,
he tried.
Yes, he was extremely. It was such an earnest attempt to not subvert, but to kind of change the. And so this does not feel like a game that. This doesn't feel like Rian Johnson made a sequel to Portal. It feels like Valve hired more writers and made a longer game.
Yep.
I think this ties into like how we were talking about this being sort of like an indie game. There's you haven't played Helldivers, Alon, right?
I think I have, actually. On PlayStation.
I think Helldivers. I think Helldivers is one of the best games ever made. I absolutely love it. I think it's a masterpiece. Although the graphics are kind of unoriginal. There's an IGN review that's like 9 out of 10, like amazing game, blah 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 blah, like unoriginal, like in the highlights, unoriginal graphics, and like one paragraph about how the graphics are uninspired.
I mean, a lot of the Portal 1 reviews are similar, right? Amazing game, blah 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 blah, but the length could have been a little longer. It's like, sorry, this isn't like McDonald's. You're not like bloated after your meal. We just make really good food. It's like.
Yeah, right. I just think. So sorry. So, I totally agree. I think Portal 1 doesn't overstay its welcome, and any problems you would have with it, you can look past them because you don't have to do them over and over again. But Helldivers is made, I think, by Arrowhead Games, and on their website is a big banner that says games for everyone are games for no one. And I this is the thing about art. It's
man.
like art for everyone is art for no one. And I like some Marvel movies, but it's like not good, right? And I liked Portal 2, but it's not a perfect game. And what we're sort of touching on, I think, is like that. Even if it's not actually, it's sort of falling into this like commercialization trap. It's falling into this like, we're making now a fully fledged game for everybody. And I think what was cool about Portal 1 is it is like one of the first sort of like mainstream indie games, right?
Yeah.
It's really before, like, I think that term was in our like utilization. I don't know if people did this like hiring early devs, like, but you know, what I think a lot of like big seminal works are creative geniuses who worked their way up in companies and then got to make the game they really wanted to make, right? Like Kojima finally got to make Metal Gear Solid, or Metal Gear and this was like him unleashed. And we basically had a bunch of college kids make a game that suddenly was now released to everybody, right? Before you couldn't do this, right? Because you needed millions of dollars to do something like this. And because Valve had Steam, you didn't need to do this anymore, right? You could have a small, cheap game that people didn't need to buy in a box. It wasn't the orange box, but you could also just download it, right? And I think I have some like dates here, but like Half-Life 2 comes out in 2004. Portal is 2007. And then Spelunky, the first version, comes out 2008. Braid comes out 2008. Like Spelunky HD doesn't come out till 2012. And I feel like those, you know, Braid is like, I feel like one of the first like the big deal, like headliner indie games.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Valve, right? You were saying just we're at this like college like thesis show, right? And just like grab these guys.
Career fair, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the way this works now, right, is like Devolver Digital or Annapurna just, you know, probably sends people to colleges like NYU or Game Dev and just says like, you know, probably there's tons of connections, like who's making cool games, who can we publish, and it's cheap, right? You just release everything digitally. But Valve had this unique opportunity with Steam where they were basically the ones who could do this. Now they don't have to do it, right? I think someone's like, why was Valve so prolific here? Valve doesn't have to do anything anymore because if a game sells on Steam, they make a ton of money. But at the time, they had to bring the games to Steam, right, to sell them. So this is them doing that. That game company, the one that made like Journey and Flower and that Amoeba game or whatever. The same thing happened with Sony. Saw them at like USC, and they saw Genova Chen. And they were like, "We want a 3-game deal with you, exclusive for PlayStation."
I didn't know that.
And and so then they made those 3 games. And this, I think, Flower came out 2006 or 2008. His like Amoeba game came out before this. So this was like also, it was like basically the exact same thing, right? They were like, okay, here's a genius who's going to do something really cool with games. We want to have them do something similar. And you could just download it online, right? That really changed the way you could do this. And you could take a risk because it's a 2-hour cheap game.
Absolutely. That's video game history. Video Games 101 by Ted.
Seriously. Indie Game 101 by Ted.
Yeah. Are there good sequels?
Oh yes.
Yeah, I mean, this
Actual
was
question.
yeah. We our
Svenny.
Discord.
Love
Yeah,
this.
Svenny delivered on this one.
Yeah.
love
I mean,
Svenny.
why a sequel? What do we want from a sequel? Do we need sequels? Like, these are all the questions that I was thinking while I was playing Portal 2. I was like, because right, I know that like the way that actual people played the Portals were played it in 2007, freak out about it for 4 years, so excited about Portal 2, play it. I understand that wasn't my situation though, because I played them back to back. The whole time I was like, I just played a pretty perfect game. Like, why the fuck does this even exist? Aside from just making more money.
Yeah, okay, we can table that one. Making money, we can understand that impulse,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I mean, this is just like a anti-capitalism episode.
Do you have thoughts along that
On sequels I like? I don't really have any. I mean, Svenny I think worded it well, where he was like, is it something that's sort of in a, what did he say, in the same universe or same like series, where it's not a direct story sequel or not a direct even same character sequel, but in the same, you know, type of game or world or universe of game, like the Final Fantasies or the Zeldas. And like, I love those. So yeah, you know, those are great, but it's not like this at all, where it's literally just a continuation of the same story. I don't personally have experience with that except for maybe in movies, but I just don't. I mean, I just couldn't come up with a reason other than money that of like why I want this. Like one of my notes while I was playing Portal 2 is just, is this just DLC? Because that's what I felt like. This is just downloadable extra levels with a couple extra, a couple new things, a light bridge and, you know, some goo and whatever, and it's just the same game basically. And you know, and so I don't know, but you guys have played a lot more games than me, so I was curious, definitely, what you guys think.
Yeah, well, I think I had a similar question while I was playing. Was really I actually didn't think it felt that much like DLC, but I did find myself wondering, why isn't this just DLC?
Yes.
Like, why aren't there just new levels with Goop that they just re-released for Portal 1? Or like basically like CSGO, right? Just a reskin, everything is the exact same.
Yeah.
And now with an R8, now with Goop. But I at some point I do want to talk kind of, I think there is some really interesting like philosophy kind of underlying Portal 2, and a lot of it's like structure, and it connects with like Valve as a company now. But we can table that for a second. But just, I think when I think of a good sequel, I almost imagine like a director's second movie, which is not a sequel, right? Or like a director's third movie where they've kind of gotten, now they have the resources to kind of realize their vision, right? Not so much that, okay, I made this first movie, now I can take like the second version of the same story, right? That's that's a little different. And sometimes it happens, you know, sometimes you get Empire Strikes Back, but that's the exception. But like something like Mass Effect 2 feels like, you know, they made this big, huge game with a lot of flaws with Mass Effect 1 that was awesome. And then they're like, now we have the credibility, we have the resources. We're going to, you know, we have as much time as we want to make this. Like, we can make the perfect, they made what amounts to basically a perfect game.
Wow.
And that, again, that definitely has happened. And I think that list that Svenny said, right? Mass Effect 2 is on there. Fallout New Vegas. I mean, Fallout 3 is also, I'm sure many people say Fallout 4 is also an amazing sequel. Diablo 2, Sonic 2, which it's all, Sonic is just one giant game for me. I mean, cannot differentiate. Same with the
Marios for me, like, or at least the SNES and Nintendo to SNES Marios.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, Teddy, what are you thinking?
I think movies are, it's funny, like, I think that's like such a, I'm curious what you think about, like, what some movies are good sequels for you along, because I think that's like a perfect comparison. And Danny, I think what you're saying about games is actually interesting, because I always think like what the problem with so much like sequels and like indie bands that get famous. It's like actually like what helps or what seems to have helped is like constraints and struggle and limitations. And when George Lucas has full reign on, the Star Wars prequels, it's a fucking disaster, right? And like actually having people who like check you and call you out and say like, hey, you can't spend a ton of money. You have to do it in practical effects or something. And I don't know. I think that's like how so much of the creative process works. And I'm not for everyone. Some people just like make whatever they want and are amazing artists. But often what the first thing is, that isn't the case. And so to suddenly have them unleashed is like, oh, we did record this with the best equipment and did all this stuff. It's like, oh, but that's not why we like this. It had nothing to do with the special effects, right? George Lucas is obsessed with special effects. And it's like, no, like this is a good story. And that's why we like it.
I think, I guess it really depends on the game, right? Like a Journey 2 where they had an infinite budget. To me, I don't see how that would really open things up and create like the player experience they're aiming for. But something like a Mass Effect, a Fallout, where like you can build a bigger, richer, deeper world around open world around it. Like to me, having the access to those resources is a big boost it is a big boost. But again, with something like music, it's a higher fidelity recording. Like, Please Please Me I still love listening to Please Please Me. And, there's some really high fidelity albums now that I don't want anything to do with. Right. So it's,
well, I think that's what's interesting is I think you're right about video games is that they're so technologically limited and constrained by man hours who can program, right? It's so much harder to realize your vision that way if you're like, I want this world to be bigger. Like that's just a very different kind of constraint in my opinion. Like, or it's just very important for games. Like, like to be able to go lots of places. If you really want to have that happen, you just can't do it if you don't have enough money or enough success. I don't know if the graphics need to look amazing, right? Like I think we talked about that with Chrono Trigger, right? Just like something that looks like shit relatively, like in terms of graphical quality, but is fucking gorgeous and amazing and inspired. But yeah.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to like the risk thing almost where, if the first version is successful enough, the sequel carries basically zero risk. As long as it's not absolutely horrible, it's going to sell, it's going to make money, people are going to write about it, people are going to talk about it. Ultimately, that's why they're making the game. But, in the case of like the movies that immediately come to mind, like Terminator 1, I think people liked it. I love it, but it wasn't like a humongous commercial success, Terminator 2, if we're talking like Portal 1 to Portal 2, like Terminator 2 just does so many more things and just so many, like that sensation that we had in Portal 1 when we're stepping in and stepping out and seeing ourselves for the first time, like nothing like that ever happens in Portal 2. Not even close, right? We're just basically playing the same game. Terminator 1 to Terminator 2, it's like the whole movie you're just like, oh my God, this is so crazy. Like it's sort of similar in the sense that it's like same world, sort of a continuation of the same story, just further along in time. And that's obviously one of the better sequels that comes to mind for me for movies. But yeah, I don't really have that much to say about it because it's just such like it's sort of like a vague topic that I don't really have like, I'm not like this is when sequels are good and this is when sequels are bad and this is what I want and this is what I don't want. I'm not like advanced enough to know that. I just feel like in this case, no one really ever And maybe this is why the main creative director left during the creation of Portal 2, right? Because she was the one who made the companion cube and made all this amazing shit in 1. And Kim Swift, I think is her name, and she left probably because she was like, "This, what the fuck are we doing?" But it feels to me like no one in the room ever was like, "Okay, why are we making Portal 2? What are we trying to say? Why should people want this and buy this?" Instead, it's everything else that we just said for the last 45 minutes of we're just going to make this thing and it's going to do well for A, B, C reasons, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny just thinking about how, really the initial conditions seem really important to whether or not a sequel is good. Can you hear us, Teddy? Or can you hear us fine?
Teddy's lagging a little bit.
I was lagging out.
Yeah, okay, just making sure. I can talk slower for you if your camera can't handle it. It seems like the initial conditions for Portal 2 are set up really well for a sequel. It's like there's this really tight proof of concept game that was insanely short that has a character that people like, has some memes that people like, and I mean, it's what Fenny said, right? The sequels that are good, and the ones that aren't.
That's what it is.
There was, I think, in certain cases, there's not a good opportunity for a sequel, and an example would be Kingdom Hearts 2, Kingdom Hearts 2. But you have a finished story, and then you just have to create a new story, a new inciting event, create a whole new universe around it. And Portal 2, I just felt like the conditions were, Portal 1 felt like it set the table for us, it was a great opportunity for a sequel, and Portal 2 just really didn't lock in identity, it feels like, and lock in its reason for existing.
I think what you were saying, Alon, is true. You don't know what it takes to make a good sequel. I'm sure there are many different ways we can do that. One thing I don't love is retcon and specifically, I think, Danny, maybe this connects to some of the stuff you want to talk about, but that GLaDOS is J. Jonah Jameson's secretary, girlfriend, whatever, that it is the AI he creates, right?
Yeah.
And that to me just pollutes what I came to know and love about Portal 1. And just trying to make that more connected and meaningful usually fails, in my opinion. And it's why I think something more in the universe is usually much safer, because you don't have those issues.
Right.
And same with what Danny was saying about Star Wars sequels and stuff.
I mean, Dave Morrow's question was the perfect brevity of Portal 1 or the focused improvements of Portal 2. And I feel like the question just gives the answer away, right? It's do you prefer the perfect game or the one that sort of improved it's easier to see where your portal is, and it's maybe less nauseating if you flip upside down, right? It's brevity is the soul of wit. It's that part of why that game is perfect is the brevity, and breaking that is a lot of where our complaints come from. So I think that's an easy answer there.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about sequels is that at their I think it's always worth making a sequel because it can be the best. It can be the perfect, the encapsulation of what the designer wanted, or what the perfect expression of their creativity. And
do you think they were able to do that with what they wanted to say about science here?
Oh, good one. And AI and stuff.
Well, I just don't. Again, it's I just think the way you described it early on is that it's so they're not really on message throughout the game. It kind of sneaks in at various points. What I think is kind of interesting commentary and interesting. Lots of it acts as as metaphor, and then, but it's not. It's not laid on thick enough, right? The Last of Us it's laid on as thick as possible, right? The themes and what they're trying to say. Or sorry, The Last of Us 2. Well, some kind of The Last of Us, but The Last of Us 2 especially. And this is kind of closer to the other end of the spectrum, where it's like you said, they don't want to overcommit to being too earnest about what they want to say about AI and technology and research. But
do you feel like they
still
want to
don't do
say
enough.
anything, or do you feel like they say anything?
I think there's a lot. I think the whole like Cave Johnson, the underground section, is kind of like an interesting reflection of the science of the past and what it looked like, and it was just like so destructive and was unconcerned with risk, and it's caricatured, right? It's like we brought in the astronauts and special forces and the best people, and you may turn into a loaf of bread or whatever it was. The different side effects of the research, and I thought like it's funny. I didn't necessarily think that many of the lines in that section were funny, but the whole like idea I thought was funny, right? But that's kind of what things were. Things were kind of like that, right? It was just these like insane research trials and ideas, and how we got so many inventions out of that time period. It's like rife with side effects and hidden issues, and I think like the metaphor is that you drop into like the dungeon, the basement of this modern, shiny science facility, into this kind of like nuancedly dark history that it has, right? And almost like this, it's not a surprise that this like dark foundation gave rise to this like AI takeover in the end. And it feels like, I don't know a lot about, Valve is a very not secretive, that makes it sound like dubious, but they're a very private company, right? There's not a lot of press, and Gaben goes to lots of events and supports the industry, but isn't like constantly, he's not giving tours of Valve and interviewing everyone about what they're working on. It's not like Bungie, but I think like it shows something about how Valve is actually really interested in spearheading new technology outside of just games, right? They're all about like brain-computer interfaces now. Like that's their big technological push, which is kind of like, brain chipping to create more immersive experiences. And like, I think it shows some kind of humility and interest in like pursuing scientific development like in a meaningful way.
Do you think do you think Gaben is Simmons? Or do you think he is J. Jonah Jameson? Is he the, what's his name in the game? I forget.
Cave Johnson.
Cave Johnson,
yeah.
Is he Cave Johnson, or is he like, do you think he's aware of this issue and he's like trying to not become him?
I don't know. It seems to me that this is, it shows.
Or you like they should take their own advice.
I'm sure they could afford to, but I think to me it shows that they know they want to do this right, and they don't want to just they don't want to do the kind of like the startup, the American startup feeling of just like move fast and break things, right? They think with technologies this serious, they think it's important to move slow, and like I think I imagine they have I would imagine that the type of people who make this game and work at Valve are people who are really nervous about, have a healthy skepticism of AI. I think to me it shows they want to be as far away from Cave Johnson as they can. They don't want to pour special goop on people and animals to see what happens, right?
Did you guys like the Black Mesa reference in Portal 1?
I did. I thought it was so funny.
Like, what the fuck? It totally caught me off guard. But
you got to be like, I feel you got to be a little immersed in. You have to have played Half-Life 1 really to be like, oh, Black Mesa is a company, like a defense company, science company. But I was smiling a lot when it happened.
It's funny to think that like, okay, the universe that they're telling us is there is like Black Mesa's also doing this. There's like people running through similar test chambers in like a different company, which I found enjoyable. But the one other thing I wanted to say, and then I'm pretty much done with my notes, is that like we didn't talk about the co-op at all. That's one thing that Portal 2 added that Portal 1 didn't have anything close to, is a co-op mode. And I think that like it's funny when you think about where Portal 1 came from. I think a lot of the time we, meaning humans, give credit to things that are pretty much just hindsight bias and luck. And like with Portal 1, like they didn't know it was a good game and they didn't expect it to do well or anyone to care about it. They just kind of threw it in the orange box with Half-Life 2 and were like, maybe some people will play this weird experimental game. And then, you know, in hindsight, we're like, oh my God, they made this incredible game. And like they had no idea what they were making. And then Portal 2 comes along and they think they're making this incredible, funny, deep sequel, but I have the benefit of hindsight. I think the actual good thing that they made was the co-op mode, which is actually really cool and really fun. And like the only part that felt like a genuinely good sequel to Portal 1 for me was playing that and being like, wow. Like when I played that, I had the Portal 1 feelings of like, wow, this is so cool. Like this is actually a different game. This is different application of the same technology. And you know, yeah, I just think it was great.
Well, and again, it's like Portal 1 in that it's just building a game around this mechanic, right?
Exactly.
And this gameplay idea and filling in where it feels like it needs a little filling in, right? And it's like it's like a return to literal return to form.
Yeah, and it's just adding another player that ideally you're friends with and you're talking to, just add so many dimensions of gaming, of playing anything, right? That like, yeah, the technology is not that much more advanced from Portal 1. It's the same portal gun. It's the same, like, you know, shoot it over here, shoot it, fling over here. But it's just like being able to see through someone else's eyes, which is so cool that you can see through the person you're playing with's eyes, like their camera essentially. And then just solving puzzles with a whole new, now all of a sudden there's 4 portals instead of 2. What can that do? It's just like really felt organic and like, oh, they actually built, this is Portal 2 for me. Like they actually built another game that is doing similar things that Portal 1 is doing instead of the main game of Portal 2.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I think like when you, I was going to say something about mechanics, but I'll just say something about humor, which is like, I was going to say like the Eureka moment in Portal 1 is like enough to kind of get me through the game. But in Portal 2, it's just like, it's not quite there for all the reasons we said. But like to have that with somebody else is really satisfying. It's like being in your friend's basement, like watching you do something like awesome and being like, that was so cool, or you figured it out, or it's why it's fun to do crosswords with other people, right? You're experiencing the co-op of often not of it being an action game, which we so often associate with co-op and being with a friend, but puzzle solving with a friend, which is like cool to experience. But there is also, I was going to say, you know, what's not funny is Robot Potato, but what is funny is like missing a portal and your friend like splatting and dying or something.
I had
like,
so many clips of, I played with Cutler, so many clips of him just like going like flinging himself into the ceiling where like I was supposed to have put a portal in the ceiling so he would launch through it, and he's just going like, it's just like a crashing sound of like and I'm just like watching him hit the thing and I'm like, dude, what's going on, like chill, you know? And it's like it's just so many more funny, amazing things happen in that mode.
Right, that's like that is right, that's it, right? That's the accident. I mean, it's not an accident, but yeah, right. That's Helldivers. Yeah, there you go. No, it's just a good laugh.
Yeah.
Before we, I guess we can jump to ratings next.
Oh, Teddy, we're losing Teddy again. Oh,
Teddy's
you're back.
Teddy's back.
Stop getting so damn excited.
Before we jump to ratings, in the vein of what's funny, I did think in Portal 2, a really funny moment was, I just have this note that I wanted to say, is when Wheatley is trying to get you to go one way and GLaDOS is trying to get you to go the other, and you're supposed to go the Wheatley way to advance the level. I forgot exactly what's happening. And then GLaDOS says, look, like this door goes outside. And as you get closer, she's like, oh, I think I see a deer. Come look. And if you like walk up to the door, there's like a bunch of leaves and stuff, and if you try to look through, the door just closes, and then you get neurotoxined. But it's just like so funny. He's like, I think I see a deer, and then like the door closes, you just get murdered. It's a really good moment. But that's one where I'm like, I'm glad they let you. You have to go over there. You have to choose to go over there. You get an achievement, like a
I love that.
rule follower or something like that. It's good.
Stanley
Great moment.
Parable enters the scene.
Yes, exactly.
All right.
Ratings time.
Yeah.
So let's do maybe each category and then do both games.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
So recommend. I mean, I'll just start off. I think Portal 1 is a 3 out of 3 recommend. I think everyone should play this game, including people who don't play games. Definitely my first 3 out of 3 recommend. It's a big one there. And I think Portal 2 is a 1. I mean, if you love Portal 1, I guess it's worth playing, but I don't really think anyone else should waste their time with it.
I agree. Same. I think Portal 2 is I enjoyed some of the humor and stuff, but it's not like you're not missing anything. So
Yeah.
if you don't want to do it, don't do it.
Yeah, I've got Portal 1 recommended as a 3, and Portal 2 is a 2, a soft 2. Yeah, same deal. Like if you didn't like Portal 1, I wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
But if you really just want to solve some more puzzles, if you want to test, you want to keep testing, then I give it's a solid 2.
What's the other categories again?
Fun and senses. So fun for Portal 1. I will.
Whoa. Cops are unhappy about those
yeah.
ratings.
I think I'm going to give Portal 1 a 2. I did think it was fun and satisfying, but I've definitely had much more fun playing other games. Like Prey was more fun, I think, for me.
What about Portal 2?
Portal 2, a 1. Portal 2 gets a 1 on fun for me.
Teddy, what are you thinking?
It's not unfun. There's 0, right?
Oh yeah, there's 0.
Yeah.
I've given 0s.
Yeah, it's not unfun. Yeah, Alon's 0 on Prey.
Yeah.
It's not unfun, but it's not. Don't go out of your way if you want to have fun. If someone's like, I want to play a game, I want to have some fun. Be like, this this might work, but I would probably give you some other ones.
Yeah, I think both are 1 for me.
Me too.
I think there are some. I think Portal 1 is just something we didn't talk about briefly is when you start to master the portals, you feel like you're sort of breaking the testing chambers, but you never really quite do that, right? Because the game's letting you do that, and you never quite do it ever. But once you actually break out of the whole testing process and you're like, I'm a portal master, I just felt so confident and was just like, oh, I want to go up there, I'll just blast a portal here. I just felt really confident and was like, okay, I have orange there, orange, okay, blue, and so blue here, or like when you're moving the platform and there's like the floating platform and the walls cutting, and you're like, how am I going to get across? Like, I'll portal around it and then like jump back on the platform. I don't know. I felt like there was like some really cool, small, tight action moments.
Yeah.
And in Portal 2, one thing I really loved is the light bridges. I felt like I could really do some really fun, cool stuff using them. And a lot of the game I just felt was like doing a jigsaw puzzle, which is not fun, but is in some ways satisfying. But like, I really love like dropping down on a light bridge that I just like shot lower than me.
Yeah.
And, like doing fun stuff with it.
And like the blocking the turrets with the light bridge and stuff like that is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe eventually we'll either get rid of fun as one of our criteria or just add an additional, because it's just so flawed, because I'm saying this whole episode that Portal 1's like basically perfect, and I'm giving it a 1 also. It's just not like a thrilling, addictive, fun game, which isn't bad. It's not trying to be. I just don't think it is. And I think Portal 2, yeah, I still think it's a 1. I still think there's enough cool stuff, and co-op carries a lot of this for me. Like all of my clips from Portal 2 are from co-op, because that's where all the funny stuff happened. But even, like when you There's the one where you put the goo on the companion cube to make it like bounce like crazy and break the glass. Like that was like, oh, I was like freaking out. That was such a cool part. You know, when you put goo on stuff, it bounces. You know, there's definitely fun parts. But yeah, double ones for me too. Snake Eyes. And then Senses. I mean, probably both are ones for me also. I mean, they're pretty... The music is like procedurally generated, fine background music. The test chamber is supposed to look really like drab and terrible, but it does also look drab and terrible. Like it's just the most bland textures imaginable, really. It's like an olive colored wall or a white colored wall, and that's basically it. Or like, and like green acid water. That's like the three main textures of the game. The only thing that really senses wise is cool, I think, is like the sound and look and feeling of the portals. Just like shooting a portal, what it looks like when you look through a portal, and actually going through a portal, I think is all just like, you can stand in between your portals. It's so cool. But yeah, aesthetics wise, it's like not a great game.
It's always hard because I like have to decide whether to adjust it for the time. I thought Senses for Portal 1 is probably a 2. Portal 2 is tough. I felt like Portal 1 is like, I was totally fine that they were just recycling textures and objects in every room because it's like, you know, Source Engine, small game from 2007. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, especially when you first fall down the shaft with GLaDOS in Portal 2, and then there's like all this junk on the ground. It's literally just like copy pasta.
Yeah.
Like copy pasta wreckage with like wires and like the white paneling and stuff. Yep. I'm like, there's literally like 8 of the same objects in this room. Like what in the same positions? Like what is going on? Like why did you do this? And I was like, why? Again, it's another thing. It's like, why did you make the level so big if you're just going to recycle stuff in it, right? It's just shrink it down. So I think with a time adjustment, I would give Portal 2 a... Oh, it's tough. I think a 0? I think a 1. Yeah, I'm going to give it a 1. 2 for Portal 1, 1 for Portal 2.
Very fair.
Portal 1 is a 0. Though you talking about the portals made me feel like I should change my mind. Like just seeing yourself in the portals is cool.
Like that's enough to be like, yeah.
Yeah, but I feel like that's different than aesthetics. That's just like and Portal 2 is 2 for me. I think by the end it's overstayed its welcome, but like I loved the overgrown lab. I loved GLaDOS building each thing before you go into it.
That's
and like
true.
the
I forgot.
That was actually really cool. That was actually really cool.
And it felt really alive. And they did that, I thought, through like really cool sound design and graphical representation. Like sometimes I was like, oh, I'm just watching some machinery. And then you like get up in some area and you realize like, oh, that was the whole floor, or that was her building the walls. Mm-hmm. And I just love post-apocalyptic overgrowth. I just always am like fascinated by that.
Tokyo Jungle,
like those photos of Chernobyl. I just like, I love all that stuff. So that
fair.
Is a good place in my heart. So
it's hard when you're like not enjoying the sound to correctly grade the sound design, right? I'm like, all I want is just to shut the fuck up. Like progressively lowering the master volume so I hear less and less. It's like, yeah, but it was good, and even the voice acting was good as well, right? So.
Oh, and one thing for the senses for Portal 2 is when you run on the speed goop and it accelerates the music. And all the sounds, I thought that was a nice touch. Great audio engineering.
Very good. All right, boys.
All right. That's
Where can you find us?
I don't know. Oh, patreon.com/wideflank.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like and subscribe on YouTube.
We're trying to
KeepTube.
Yeah. We're trying to become famous. Everybody continue to support us. Tell your friends about us. If you support us already on Patreon, thank you so much. If you talk to us in Discord, thank you, because that makes me feel valued as a person, which is maybe better than, well, it's definitely better than money. And tell your friends about us. Thanks again to our patrons. And we're going to do more TikToks, right, Alon?
Yeah, we're gonna try and do some TikToks and shit. So we'll get that online, and next game we're doing Hades.
Yeah, next game's going to be Hades. Runs take about like 30 to 45 minutes. So.
It's fucking cool. It's a cool game. I played about an hour. It's really cool. It's really fun. So play with controller though, or else it's really bad.
Yeah, definitely controller. All right, so that's our app.
Cheers. Bye.
You guys roll.